Why feminists are begging for marriage. Hi, and welcome to One Mail. I'm back with another hot topic. In this video, we're going to take a look at why feminists are begging for marriage and what MGTOW has to say about it all. Believe me, you won't believe how hard these women work to attract a man, so stay tuned. We'll be discussing the feminist case for marriage by Louise. In this post, I'll share my reactions to what she says. After much debate, the United Kingdom finally legalized divorce without establishing fault on April 6, 2022, making it the first country in the world to do so. More people will likely seek divorce now that doing so is optional rather than mandatory. It's hard for me to believe that the UK did not start doing this until at least half a century after the rest of the Western world. Therefore, there were many problems with the traditional model of monogamous marriage, as the sexual revolutionaries pointed out. Despite the drawbacks, this model is currently the most effective means of addressing the issues caused by gender-based differences in the resources expended during the reproductive process. Here is an extract from Louise's article demonstrating why the conventional model is worth considering. The sexual revolutionaries had it right, the monogamous marriage model was flawed. Using this model, mothers and their children can live together while also receiving financial assistance. In this day and age, where mechanical washing machines and gas-powered water heaters are commonplace, wherein time and effort can be saved without sacrificing comfort or cleanliness, the mother traditionally stayed home to take care of the children. At the same time, the father worked to provide for the family. Most of us now work outside the home, and mothers with young children can do so because maintaining a home requires less time than it once did. It's extremely difficult for single mothers to fulfill both parental roles at the same time successfully. They are intended primarily for the low-income bracket. Since a single mother can't provide adequately for her children, she first argues that feminists are both right and wrong about marriage. Then she claims that modern weddings are too expensive for the average person. Nobody gets married unless they've saved up for a huge wedding. She also places the blame on men, saying that we only care about ourselves and our sexual partners and are too afraid of marriage to settle down with a serious partner. As far as I can tell, this woman is not pleading for a return to the institution of traditional marriage but instead blaming men for its decline. Remember that the most successful males, mainly the top 5 to 10%, are not particularly sexually active. And what if she were to criticize the ladies? Her current suitors claim they are overly generous with their sexual favors, but she disagrees. Her response is included as well. In addition to what she said, quote, "They already have the technology necessary to alter the incentive structure toward more long-term male sexual behavior, financial security for the mother, and stability in the home for childrearing. Although it is archaic, cumbersome, and prone to periodic failure, we still call it monogamous marriage. However, I keep hearing that marriage provides for a woman's economic needs and provides a safe and nurturing home for her children." Meanwhile, from what I gather about the male perspective, the Chads come out worse regarding sexual diversity. Traditional marriage is a regressive idea that must be left in the past. In addition, you have no leverage to force them to wed. You also have no power to convince them to stop sleeping with married women. Most of the time is spent trying to make peace with feminists and slapping their massive asses by highlighting the many strong arguments feminists have made. She goes on to explain that beginning with the millennial generation, the United States is experiencing a sexual counter-evolution. I will quote her again as she continues to degrade men with comments like this. "Those only interested in one-night stands will never become pregnant because of how our bodies function. Unfortunately, despite contraceptive advances, there are still cases where sexual activity unexpectedly leads to pregnancy. The saying says, 'The woman is always left holding the baby.' It seems more guilt and shaming language is necessary to get us back to the altar. However, abortion gives women the option to discard that cellular sac. To paraphrase, she means that women will be responsible for picking up the slack." She also expresses dismay over the apparent success of the offspring of those who never tied the knot. The likelihood of a divorce occurring in a household where both parents are single is roughly twice that of a family where both parents are married. When this happens, children have to decide between living with one parent or one of the step-parents, the usual wag on the stepfather's shoulder, or something similar. My only request is that someone thinks about the kids for the sake of the little ones and the women. She wants these men to tie the knot, but what about the man leaving for himself? Due to his susceptibility to divorce rape, his life has been destroyed. Does this sound like it's meant to shame men who have children outside of marriage and common law relationships? Do I hear shaming language directed at men at the end of this piece, or is that only how it reads to me? Louise talks about yet another Vice magazine article. This piece looked at radical monogamy, a new marriage name. Marriage, which feminists had previously deconstructed, has now been rediscovered and renamed as if by feminists themselves. Liberating women from the constraints of traditional marriage was a central goal of the women's liberation movement of the 1960s and 1970s. It seems they want it back now, but under a new name, so they don't look stupid for giving up on it in the first place. Divorce rates have gone down slightly, but that's not because people are staying together for longer, it's because fewer people are getting married in the first place. The declining trend in marriage rates persists. Louise claims, and I quote her, that there was a slight drop in divorce rates in 1968, but that this was not attributable to a genuine return to marital longevity. The percentage of children born to single parents has decreased from 8% in 2019 to 7% in 2019. Nearly half of what marriage used to be is essentially non-existent today. No surprise there, it's already passed away. Who would choose to have a sword of Damocles hanging over their heads, ready to fall at any moment? Not me. No reasonable man would risk his life for someone no longer his wife. It would appear that Louise, along with a large number of other women, has recently become aware of the issue that is the household headed by a single mother. This is what she says, paraphrased. Despite the valiant efforts of many single moms, in the absence of any doubt, statistics show that children raised without their biological fathers have a lower chance of success in life. These kids are more likely to have emotional and behavioral issues, boys are more likely to end up in prison, and girls are more likely to become pregnant as teenagers. What she says is as follows, I've paraphrased her. Despite the valiant efforts that many single mothers make, statistics show that children of single mothers are less likely to have access to these resources because of the immense pressure placed on them to provide for their families. All the tasks associated with raising a child include taking care of them, introducing them to new people, and disciplining them. Many mothers seem to have concluded that their adult children are nothing but a source of shame and will not be any idiotic or practical help to them as they age. They know they will be doomed to a life of poverty as a single mother. Nobody has helped them despite their obvious need for it. It would appear that they need a male utility. They are making more effort to save and invest their earnings in improving their living conditions and those of their families. Then why is there a sharp uptick in coverage of rising birth rates in the national media? Is it because it's so hard for women to raise kids alone? Is it possible that low fertility rates are behind the government's push to encourage people of British origin to have more children? This is about getting men to submit so taxpayers don't have to pay for single mothers to have children. If you don't want to get married, Justin, the person who forwarded you this article, says, and I quote, why to risk so much with marriage when you can just have a relationship? Women generally don't like to own up to their mistakes. So women have taken over the area, and no men are allowed inside, so they can't get married there. They call deadbeat dads non-resident fathers who do not meet their child support obligations. Do you seriously think that most women, or the Chads, would agree to have only one sexual partner for the rest of their lives? Someone also mentions the part where Louise says the classic model is the wisest. Because it is based on human experience, the traditional model inevitably contains wisdom. But he thinks most women are content to sleep with just one man for the rest of their lives. The benefits of working with male beta suppliers were too great to ignore. If one wanted to keep things as they are in their society today, it wouldn't want to continue the tradition of giving men the respect and responsibilities of marriage. This couple was making marriage a lousy deal for men. The collapse of civilization directly results from eliminating male marital motivations. Society cannot continue to function without male marriage. The women portrayed in this piece are not pleading with men to marry them, instead, they seek liberties that marriage would otherwise deny them. However, neither the elimination of family courts nor awarding of parental rights to the father is addressed. If the mother has broken her marriage vows in the past, as is traditional, she is the one who has suffered the consequences. However, she does not believe women should be held responsible for their actions on our soy side. Women are quick to point the finger at others when things don't go their way to avoid taking responsibility for their actions. It would be best to reinstate women's responsibility. If all goes well, our society may be able to return to some semblance of normalcy. If something goes well, the woman gets the credit, but if things go wrong, the man takes the hit. Therefore, men tend to forget accountability for their deeds. After a certain point, men will no longer participate in fixed games and instead go their separate ways. That's a fact that our society and a lot of women around the world ignore. A man's libido can only go so far. Even the British trap, thought author, Louise, feels that men want a wide range of sexual experiences. It's possible that only the men she's interested in believing this, but the typical beta is content to spend the rest of his life with the same woman. Her assumption demonstrates Louise's inability to comprehend males that our lack of marriage is due solely to our desire for sexual freedom. To all appearances, she shares the predicament of other women. Males are treated more like things than people, while females and children are valued solely for their reproductive potential. She's trying to trick us into getting married by exploiting our sense of guilt, which is what women want men to become again, a source of support for the household and raising children. If we're already living together as a couple, or if you want us to feel like the poor men on the Titanic who gave up their seats and lives for the sake of the women and children. I'm trying to say that many former feminists, including myself, have come full circle and are once again supporting traditional gender roles. If and only if you're prepared to make significant concessions and enlist the help of every woman to successfully repeal the rights women were provided for and cared for by men. If we're already in a common law relationship, or if you want us to feel sorry for ourselves like the poor men on the Titanic because that's probably the only thing that will get you, women, back to the negotiating table, then go ahead and make us feel like we're in a relationship of convenience. This next video explains why men are sick and tired of dating. Be sure to check it out.